All right, it is officially mock draft season. We've got a lot of the picks already set up in the NFL draft. Certainly, the playoff teams have to shake themselves out, but we know that the Tennessee Titans will pick first. Cleveland's there at second. The Giants will pick at third, and so on. The Patriots actually moved themselves back to the fourth selection. But I was looking through the latest mock draft up at ESPN from Jordan Reed, who's, of course, their draft analyst. And I was curious where Will Campbell would end up. And you've seen a lot of variation with Will Campbell from into the top 5 all the way towards the back end of the first round. And I think it has a lot to do with the projection on position and where Will Campbell projects to play. I didn't see entering the season with some mock drafts that were obviously way too early before the college season started, any projection that had Will Campbell at guard. And you're now starting to see that a little bit more. I would suggest that, obviously if you're a true franchise left tackle, that's the best thing for your draft stock. But the versatility of it is not necessarily a huge negative. And I think Will Campbell could play guard, but I do think that the teams are going to give him a chance to play out at tackle. And so in this mock draft, Will Campbell is mocked to the Chicago Bears at number 10. I think that makes a lot of sense. The Bears' offensive line was atrocious this year. Caleb Williams was battered and bruised. He was bordering on David Carr's all-time sack record by the end of the season, and they've got to get that cleaned up. Because, when you go into this year looking at the Bears, you're looking at a team saying, they got Keenan Allen. Okay, that's pretty good. They drafted one of the best receivers in the draft in Rome Odunze and got DJ Moore. And, Caleb Williams comes in. They got a lot of toys. They ought to be pretty good offensively. Well, they weren't good offensively. They were terrible offensively because they couldn't block anybody. So Will Campbell makes a ton of sense there to Chicago at 10. And it got me thinking, 10 is really early in the draft, and LSU has put defensive backs that early, has put running backs like Leonard Fournette that early. Guys like on the defensive line have obviously gone that high with Tyson Jackson and Glenn Dorsey and some of those guys. Kiki Mingo was an early pick. You've had Burrow and Daniels and Jamarcus at quarterback. You've put wide receivers all over the place in the first round of the draft. But offensive line has been a tough sled for LSU in the draft. You're looking at pure tackles from LSU and where they've gone in the draft. You're looking at Austin Deculus in the 6th round. You're looking at Gerald Hawkins in the 4th round. You're looking at Sadiq Charles went in the 4th round. Joe Barksdale was a 3rd round pick. Even go back to Andrew Whitworth, he was a 2nd round pick coming out of LSU. Will Campbell is set to be the highest drafted LSU offensive tackle in decades, going back to long way. And the question is he the best offensive tackle in LSU history? And again, I hear a lot on Twitter. I hear a lot on message boards. And I know how disappointed a lot of LSU fans were in the offensive line's run blocking this year. And that's a huge part of playing on the offensive front. And Will Campbell is not immune from some of that blame. He did not have a great year in run blocking. But you're talking about an elite pass blocker. And that is the case with every scout who takes a look and writes a feature on Will Campbell. The breakdown here in this from Jordan Reed says he's a consistent technician, a 6'6", 323-pound, polished blocker who can step in as a day one starter at either tackle or guard and help protect Caleb Williams. Will Campbell basically gave up 4 sacks in 3 years. If I would have told you when he signed as a 5-star recruit out of Neville in an early enrollee that he was going to give up 4 sacks in 3 years, you would have gone, holy crap, give me that guy. And now that I sit here and look at the mock draft and try to debate whether or not he's the best tackle in school history, I bet a lot of you that would have taken him with 4 sacks in 3 years on signing day and going, that's incredible, are now going to look at it and go, underrated, overrated, didn't perform. That's what I see on Twitter. And I'm like, really? Is that really how you feel? Because the statistics are pretty jarring, and the pros still like him. He's mocked in the top 10. Now, I'm not trying to sit here today and take 21-year-old Will Campbell and directly compare him with Andrew Whitworth, Hall of Famer. Like, that's not a fair comp for someone who hasn't played a snap in the NFL. But if we're just talking about career at LSU and then what that merited in the draft, which doesn't tell the whole story, we know that. Glenn Dorsey was a better college player than he was a pro. But I think you could make the case based on accolades, based on his draft position, and the fact that he was the starting left tackle the second he stepped on campus, not a redshirt guy like Faneca, not a redshirt guy like Mawai, that he's the best offensive tackle in school history. He might not be. I'm not telling you that he is. But he's in the discussion, and I think that crystallizes a bit if he's the 7th or 8th pick in the draft. Different sport than it was in 1996. 1996, you got Herb Tyler running the option. It's 3 yards in a cloud of dust if you weren't in Gainesville. And now you're spreading it out and you're running read option and it's zone blocking on run schemes, and it's a different world. I get it. So it's hard to compare one guy to one guy in a different era. But if Will Campbell goes in the top 10 of the draft, like, that's a pretty loud statement for a multi-time All-American and a guy who helped pave the way for a Heisman Trophy winner. One of the best ever. And I think it's been important to me that I try to convey to those who are disgruntled with the fact that LSU went 8-4 and couldn't run the ball as well as they wanted to this year, that doesn't completely disparage Will Campbell's entire career because he was part of an offensive line that didn't get enough push this year. It's the fun thing to do to jump down your team's throat whenever anything's happening. We're dealing with it with basketball right now. But I think it's important for me to kind of try to put that in perspective and see if I can't maybe reshape your opinion a little bit based on what everybody else outside of our little bubble thinks. Because let's be honest, the Bears aren't going to pass on Will Campbell because LSU went 8-4. They're not going to pass on Will Campbell because LSU failed to get a push on the right side of the offensive line in the run game more often than not. Now, they may check out the tape and see that there are some run game deficiencies and that he may need to play guard instead of tackle, but he's a great player. Great ambassador for LSU. Incredibly durable. And again, I think if I told you what he was going to be when he signed on the dotted line and early enrolled from Neville, right when Brian Kelly got here, I think you all would have taken that. And he deserves to go down with some of the greatest offensive linemen in LSU history. He's got a long, long, long way to go to join guys like Faneca and Whitworth and Mawai at the pro level. At the college level, he's in that discussion. I don't think there's any doubt. If you're looking for LSU football content, you can find it on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast, Hunt on LSU. We continue to tell that each and every day because it's new. We did have Hunt on LSU on YouTube, and we've had that for a couple of years, but it's all in podcast form as well now. We've been looking at those numbers and appreciate you all so much for subscribing to the channel. If you're really interested in LSU football and you don't want to wade through the basketball talk on this show, some of you don't want to wade through the Saints talk on this show, you just want your LSU football goods. It's there in podcast form, and it's all broken out for you. Hunt on LSU. Just search it wherever you find your podcast. You can find us. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.